we finally reached this point with my opinion. So allow me to state for the record that this is just my personal opinion on everything that's happened. And if you like the guy, that is perfectly within your right. I am not telling you to stop liking the guy. If you like Seth Rollins and love everything he does in the ring and all the charisma and all the talent he perceives, and if you think he's just a nice guy behind the scenes, that's perfectly fine. But this is a video where I'm not going to be as favorable with Seth Rollins because really the last year he has, in my opinion, destroyed himself in terms of his personality. And my ultimate viewpoint was that Seth Rollins isn't being. In fact, it's not even Seth Rollins speaking anymore. It's Colby Lopez, the guy behind the character, being this different guy than he was initially when he started out. And I'm left wondering to myself, man, what the hell happened? Like, there have been, I had a multitude of different theories about why he started acting like this. I never got a direct answer on this because, well, hold on, let me just adjust the microphone volume here. So there's a lot of times I sat on certain things regarding Seth Rollins, and I really did not know how to answer when it came to this. And as you saw, I did a video where I talked about how I felt like Seth Rollins has, like, this whole thing where he says fans like perception for long form storytelling and all that. And yeah, so yeah, this is not going to be a fun video in the traditional sense where I'm just talking, but this is really my basically third and final video of the Seth Rollins Colby Lopez attitude he's been displaying the last year. And then after that, I'm pretty much done talking about Seth Rollins in terms of his personality issue that he's been displaying on interviews and everything. Like, and honestly, I probably would make a 4 video on this if he publicly comes out and apologizes for every horrible thing he said, about every crazy take he said, the generalization of all wrestling fans that we're all just these fickle creatures that just snap at the second of a snap of our fingers. We suddenly switch our opinion and everything. And I'm left wondering to myself, what the hell happened? Like, if this was all part of a character plan he was doing, okay, that's fine. But at one point, it starts to really become, when does the character stop and start? And you're left wondering to yourself, well, who is it? Colby Lopez talking, or is it Seth Rollins? It's much like the Vince McMahon issue I have, whereas Vince McMahon at one point back in 2000 was this evil character that we just wanted to see beaten up every week, and then he says the life sucks and then you die promo that everyone loves. But then when you look at how the stories about Vince McMahon is now, you're wondering, did the character ever stop, or was that really the character, or was that really Vince McMahon? Like how Vince McMahon would say, I created heaven and earth, and on WWE television, to in this day and age, you start to think, is that Mr. McMahon the character, or is that Mr. McMahon the person? Because there have been all these stories about how Vince McMahon has kind of developed a god complex about everything. But Seth Rollins, I don't know what the hell happened. Like, I initially had thought in my first video where I had said that Seth Rollins, maybe because of all the issues that were going on at the time, like Moxley had left, his bro, basically his brother in arms, had left, and he's angry and all that. Roman had that leukemia crisis, and that got to him. He was breaking down in tears when the announcement was made. He also... And plus, Dean Ambrose had almost died from a staph infection, and then they turned that into a storyline and kept that under tight lid until they wanted to exploit it for his WWE documentary Chronicle. So, yeah, I tried to justify to some extent about Seth Rollins' behavior, but then it starts getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and I'm wondering to myself, Seth, you're making it hard for me to defend you. Like, you're not really being Seth Rollins anymore. You're being Colby Lopez, and I don't know what the hell happened. Like, and this isn't like the first time he's had this kind of viewpoint on everything, where he has gone on and stated for the record about how he kind of has this kind of general disdain to some extent with fan bases and how toxic they can be, and that's a perfectly logical argument to make. But when you start generalizing and start fighting against those haters and trolls, well, you start to like warp into what you were hating initially. But that's neither here nor there, and yeah, this isn't like a traditional thoughts video, in my opinion. This is a video talking about the self-decimation of Seth Rollins, of Colby Lopez, and everything. Like, but before I go into that, I like to point out that in Ring of Honor, Seth Rollins, when he was leaving to go to WWE, fans did get hostile with him, calling him a sellout, saying he turned his back on the independent wrestling scene and all that stuff. And Seth Rollins, responsibly, in my opinion, took all that anger he was feeling against those fans who targeted him for making a career move that was his viewpoint, that was his decision, and turned it into a story for television. And he admitted that, yeah, what he was saying on TV was his real feelings with those certain fans that were calling him out and telling him, you're a sellout, you turned your back on everyone, we made you a star and you turned your back on us. And he was just speaking at the time for those kind of fans, the fans that don't like the idea of seeing one of their favorites go ahead and leave to go somewhere else. That's the big machine of WWE, because it's WWE, and we have plenty of reasons not to like them nowadays, more so than we did back then when Seth Rollins first joined WWE, and he was doing well in NXT, and NXT was like this hybrid machine of the WWE system and the independent wrestling system. But yeah, and for a long time, Seth Rollins was a very likable heel, a likable face, but then 2019 comes around, and he's now on a high with the beating Brock Lesnar in the first opening matchup. He went ahead and defeated and had the Universal title run was going on, but then his Baron Corbin feud happened, and but before we get to the Baron Corbin feud, there was a thing going on at the time on Twitter. So what happened was that on Twitter, the toxic social media place that I hang out on with my buddies and my clique. But so what happened was Seth Rollins was doing this jab back and forth with Will Ospreay, and opinions on Will Ospreay as a person is a different matter, because that came out in June. But I have my critical viewpoint on Will Ospreay and what he did behind the scenes. But yeah, Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins started having these jabs. Like, it looked like it was playful fighting, and then Seth Rollins was being like, this is the best wrestling company on the planet and everything, and Will Ospreay was saying, no, it isn't, and it was like, oh, it's just a standard, independent wrestlers from the independent scene, just back and forth jab. But then it took a weird turn for a lot of people, and this is where I think people started thinking, is this Seth Rollins talking? Is this Colby Lopez talking? Is it a heated moment, or was there legitimate beef going on? But this is what happened. So Will Ospreay wrote out of nowhere a tweet saying, fact of the day, Will Ospreay wrestled more matches in 2019 than Seth Rollins, catch-up low guy, on June 24, 2019. Seth Rollins says, I mean, if you want to talk numbers, we could compare bank accounts too. P.S. That's counting a month off with a broken back. Thumbs up, buddy. So I gotta tell you, when I heard that, I actually very sat on it for a while, thinking, yeah, Seth, I don't think that was the best idea, because we all know where a huge chunk of that money's coming from, like the blood money deals with Saudi Arabia, and fans really don't want to talk about the blood money deals. I haven't even talked about a single event. I haven't even watched a full show. Like, I tried to at one point, and this was before the journalist incident, but I have not watched a single show except maybe one match, which was the Bray Wyatt match against Seth Rollins when they screwed up the booking of Hell in a Cell, which I'll talk about. But yeah, I kind of sat on that tweet for a little bit, and at the time of this recording, I went back and looked at it when I was preparing for this video, that, oh, the tweet's still up. Why? But yeah, I had very strong thoughts on that. Like, Seth, I don't agree with that viewpoint. Like, I get you're making a ton of money, but not every wrestler goes into wrestling just for money. That's just it. Like, not everyone goes into wrestling just for money. Like, there's several people that go into it for money, but it always starts off with a passionate love of the sport. Like, except for Hulk Hogan, he publicly admitted that he just didn't want to do an office job. Way to go. So, yeah, there are some people that do it for money. I'll say that, but not everyone does it. Like, I'm pretty sure Will Ospreay wasn't making a huge chunk of bank like Seth Rollins makes when he's breaking his neck every single match up and he gets awarded 5 stars, and he always likes to brag about how he wants to fight the best wrestlers on the planet, steal the show, make a name for himself. But I rarely ever hear the whole "I want to make all the money," and like I'm left wondering to myself, like 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 I know the old phrase "money doesn't buy happiness," even though it kind of does in certain extents. But to hear Seth Rollins say that, he then apologized for that, saying he got heated on that, and it was like, okay, it was a mistake. He didn't mean to do it. Though he did do a promo where he did say that we already have the best version of Will Ospreay in WWE. His name is Ricochet. He just won the U.S. title. And I was thinking to myself, when I saw that, I was like, okay, considering Will Ospreay now, I say you're right, but that's mostly from because of stuff that happens later. But at the time, people were like, dude, really? So, like, the biggest difference between Ricochet and Will Ospreay, besides, well, being Ricochet's a great guy and Will Ospreay's kind of done these shady things, is that Ricochet isn't breaking his neck, finding new ways to cripple himself every single goddamn show, like he pulled with Marty Scurll, which is another hot topic to talk about, which I don't want to do, where Will Ospreay famously did the sunset flip and his neck snapped, and you're wondering to yourself, how the hell is this guy alive? In fact, wait, how the hell is he doing his show the next night? But yeah, that's what happened. But then the Baron Corbin feud started, and everyone was like, dude, this is not a good feud. Like, it's Baron Corbin. No one really likes the guy. You're better off working with someone who's more popular with fans, so you can get a real feud out of this. And everyone wants to not see Baron Corbin win the Universal title. Like, I know Baron Corbin has his fans, but I've always seen the same thing where people were like, oh, Baron Corbin, really? And Baron Corbin has his own history of making comments and snide remarks, like how people were saying for months and months and months about how no one wants to see an old guy become world champion, and no one wants to see a part-timer, except Baron Corbin took his 2 shots at AEW, making these snide comments about how Chris Jericho won the title, and yet I'm thinking to myself, Corbin, WWE is a company that's been around for half a century. AEW just started. They needed a guy like Chris Jericho to hold that title so they can draw more people in, because it's a good business move. If AEW was like as old as WWE, then maybe you have a point, but you don't, because WWE has a huge factor in its history, whether they retcon it or not. Fans do look it up. AEW is a new ground company, and the network's going to be like, well, we need someone that can draw viewers in. So, who do you propose? And long and behold, Chris Jericho was the best solution. He's been on TNT. He had his time in WCW, so that made perfect sense. But when the feud with Becky Lynch got involved with Lacey Evans, and they did this whole this whole mixed tag team feud, so to speak, with Rollins and Becky, because in real life, Lopez and Rebecca are in a relationship, and best luck of them. Well, glad they're getting married, glad they're having their relationship going on the up and up, except for certain stands that went ballistic. I'll get to that later. So, yeah, fans were not liking the on-screen relationship of Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Rebecca and Colby, perfectly fine. That's their life. But when you got it on TV, it was like, it doesn't feel like they're really clicking. Like they're kind of awkward, or it's kind of awkward. It's not really the kind of thing you would picture. It's not like Triple H and Stephanie when they're evil, psychotic, corporate evil powerhouses and whatnot, like during the McMahon Helmsley regime. But at the same time, you're thinking to yourself, oh, like you're happy for them as a real life couple, but on TV, it's like, it's not good. It's just not good. And this is what led to what I call the beginning of the end for Seth Rollins as a face, because Seth Rollins went on social media and in interviews. The title of the headline is, let's see, on WrestleTalk.com. This is the source. This is where the article I read it on. But the whole during the Tampa Bay Times, fans who were criticizing the relationship on TV, saying it's not good, you're not clicking, it feels like you're being forced to say stuff instead of being a legitimate heel group. I mean, you're not being a legitimate group on TV. It's more like we're kind of creatively bankrupt because you're forced not to be, yourselves. If you were yourself, maybe that would work. Or again, fans were being, a lot of fans, most of them were being really respectful about, like, we're glad for you in real life, but this isn't working on TV. Like, you're probably best after this just dropping the whole thing. So, yeah. Seth Rollins just said this on the Tampa Bay Times, saying this. I think those critics might be a little jealous. I think that's where a lot of that stems from. I mean, if I'm a dude and I'm watching television and I have a crush on Becky Lynch, I'm probably not going to be fond of the guy who's dating her either, so I get that. We have such great chemistry, I think it's funny that people think we don't. Either way, it amuses me. Okay. Allow me to point out that the Becky stans really got creepy when she came when it was announced she was expecting her first child with Rollins. If he was just attacking those group of fans, I would totally be behind that. Like when you have fans making profile pictures of Becky Lynch's ultrasound and making creepy heart photos of the ultrasound and making accounts of the ultrasound, you have every right to be pissed. But when the critics and fans were saying, this doesn't work for television, we're happy for you in real life, this just doesn't work for television, Seth Rollins just outright dismissed all that criticism and said, you're all just jealous of me because I'm dating the man. Now, that should have been the end of that, but Becky Lynch came out and said she didn't like the story. She didn't like having her relationship on television, thinking it wasn't working right, thinking that it was feeling forced and all that. So, and I said this, he should apologize for saying that because his own girlfriend at the time was saying that this doesn't work. She agreed. She wanted the story to end. She didn't like it. She felt like it was not working. It wasn't clicking. And yet, Seth Rollins is like, nope, it's perfectly fine. I am 100% right. Everyone else is wrong. So does that mean he's also saying that his girlfriend, who is part of the story, wrong as well? Like I kept saying, like, dude, all you have to do is apologize. Just say you're sorry, that you should have looked at more from that perspective instead of just dismissing any and all criticism that we're just a bunch of jealous haters who just simply hate that you're dating Becky Lynch. Like, I see a lot of people loving Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, Asuka, because women from Japan are considered the most gorgeous women in the history of the world. And that's a subjective viewpoint, but I've seen people hear that Io Shirai and Evo are in a relationship, and like everyone just says the same thing. Like, okay, she's awesome, but I'm not gonna try and take Io Shirai from Evo. Like, I don't have a chance at that. Like, they just joke around when the whole concept of Io Shirai and Evo are dating. I'm like, granted, it would be a freaking awesome, it'd be kind of a freaking awesome entrance if Evil dressed up as Orochi and Io Shirai was dressing up as Daiji from Warriors Orochi, and they did this lavish entrance of the Demon Serpent King, of the Serpent King and everything, because that would be freaking awesome. But yeah, we all love Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, Asuka, and Kairi Sane and Io Shirai are in relationships, and we're all happy for them. I don't know about Asuka because I'm not into prying into people's personal life on that, but yeah, this is when the whole thing was starting to get worse because Seth Rollins was still dismissing the criticism, and then fans were calling him out on it, saying, "Look, dude. Not everyone's a jealous hater. Not everyone is jealous of you. We're all happy. A lot of us are happy for you. Don't generalize us with those kind of people." Seth Rollins, so there was an incident where Seth Rollins went on Twitter, saw a Twitter account that I follow, and I follow him, and I Wrestle Features, Wrestle Features. He was simply giving his opinion, being respectful, saying, "Look, I simply disagree," and then was talking to it, and Seth Rollins found the post, which means he's searching for himself, probably, I don't know. That's what Braun Strowman did, and he blocked me because how dare I call out the fact that was a stupid take he made. But the idea that he would go ahead and see this post, and then he says, "Hey, why are you talking to this loser?" And then all of a sudden, Seth Rollins doesn't seem to be aware of what he had just unleashed, because there are people who will defend Seth Rollins to the freaking death, going ahead and just harassing this account, one of my buddies that I like to consider a buddy of mine, and just saying horrible things to the point you had to private his account for a while. And I'm left wondering to myself, oh, god damn it, Seth Rollins, what were you thinking? You know how people get. Like the Corey Graves and Mauro Ranallo situation was a prime example of this later down the road, because Corey Graves was saying all this heated stuff against Mauro Ranallo, a guy who literally has mental health issues of bipolar depression and bipolar disorder, and Corey Graves just publicly wrote on Twitter saying some stuff about his commentary, and that gave a whole bunch of fanatics to say, "Corey Graves agrees with us, let's go harass this man who has mental issues." Like, you can have your criticism, like, and here's the thing, Corey Graves didn't seem to get the whole problem that he did. He wrote a tweet later where he goes ahead and makes a stupid statement where he says, "Hey, how about you go talk to me in private and we can talk this out and hash this all out. Don't do it on social media." And I was like, Corey, you realize you're doing the thing, you're saying to do the thing that you should have done instead of, being heated on Twitter. But that's not what this is about. So Seth Rollins would do all this crazy stuff, and Wrestle Features come back, and we're kind of moved on with that. But that was the beginning of a long issue that people would start developing with the whole issue with Seth Rollins and Colby Lopez and the character Stop and Start. So Seth Rollins would later say about everyone's favorite beloved hero Jon Moxley, and Seth Rollins took a hot take and said Moxley took his ball and went home, which, when I saw that, I did not sit on this. I actually was pissed at that, because I was thinking to myself, Punk took his ball and went home. He left while he was still under contract. Stone Cold took his ball and went home. He was still under contract. And while Punk and Austin had legitimate reasons to be very pissed off, like Austin felt like Brock Lesnar beating him on a qualifier match when it should have been a pay-per-view match made more sense, I get that. Punk had years of frustration since 2011, and he finally reached the boiling point about being screwed over after being given 3 solid offers from Vince saying, "Hey, do this and I'll do your solid. Hey, do this and I'll do your solid. Hey, do this and I'll do your solid." And he never gave his end of the debt. But Jon Moxley, he did everything he was given. He hated it. The most pissed off moment was when he had to go on TV and reference Roman's leukemia and say Roman is going to die in answer to God for what he did during the Shield, which, oh my God, Vince, what the hell were you thinking? And you see on TV, Jon Moxley's like trying his best not to lash out and go out to Vince and punch him square in the face for thinking that was a good line. And it turns out Moxley was told you had to say something worse later down the road, and Moxley was like, no way, man, I'm not doing that. So you got that factor, but here's the thing. He could have easily walked and fans would have sided with him, but everyone would have agreed that, yeah, he took his ball and went home. But he stayed, did everything he was given, did all the stuff, he did all the promo work, he did all the contracts, he did everything, he fulfilled every date on his contract, and he wasn't intending on resigning, even though he had like 2 occasions he could have easily walked out and people would have sided with him, like the one where he was told by Vince in the negotiation process before the Royal Rumble where it was reported that apparently some negotiation skills that Vince McMahon clearly lacks nowadays, where he just basically accused Ambrose of, Ambrose, be honest, come on, man. We both know you just want to strong arm us for more money because AEW is the thing. Are you kidding me? Really, Vince? But yeah, that was pretty much the sign that, yeah, Moxley's done. You can't fix this now. But Seth Rollins saying that Moxley took his ball and went home, even after that incident, after he had fulfilled every contract. Oh, the other one was when Moxley was supposed to do a long tangent promo where he felt like that wasn't a good idea and just said, slay the beast. And that pissed Vince off because how dare you keep it short and sweet? But that's neither here nor there. But Moxley did everything Vince told him to do. He did his contract, he worked the matches, even though he could have just easily walked out. He got beaten up by Drew McIntyre, got beaten up by Bobby Lashley. He did falls, he went ahead and put people over. He went ahead and had to go through a lot of shit just so he could get out of his contract. He got out of his contract. He fulfilled his obligations. He did one last show, was paid $500, which I'm pretty sure pissed some people off as a personal fuck you thing. And he left, and went to AEW. He was originally going to either go to Japan or take a hiatus from wrestling for a little bit. Then AEW called and said, hey, do you want to come work with us? And he said, yep, I'll do it. But here's the thing. He fulfilled his contract. He did everything and did not complain until after he had left and did not say anything egregious against Vince McMahon or WWE other than the "it's such good shit" line. But, yeah. Rollins, however, says he took his ball and went home. And that's not really the case. That Moxley fulfilled his entire commitments. So, if he had said that about Punk and Austin, I would have totally understood that. But he didn't. Austin and Punk did this kind of thing. Moxley stayed throughout the entire duration of his contract, did every single show, job to every single person, was even supposed to wrestle Nia Jackson lose probably at WrestleMania, and then they scrapped that idea, and that's it. But Rollins makes it look like it was a personal betrayal to him, and everyone kind of lost faith in Rollins because now it was like, this isn't Seth Rollins talking, it's Colby Lopez, and now you got this disagreement with fans, like some fans who were longtime fans of Tyler Black and Seth Rollins lost faith in him, thinking like he's a corporate kiss ass, like he's serving everything, he's doing everything Vince wants him to say. Like everyone was saying, like maybe this is an angle, maybe this is just a character work, and I try to hope for that. But at the same time, like there was no way this would happen because Moxley never gave a statement on this whole thing. He just moved on from it. He didn't even pay attention to what the hell Rollins were saying. But yeah, that was the biggest sign that Seth Rollins was being different and whatnot with fans. And I get to a minor extent why he's doing all this. I get what he's trying to do, but he's going about this the horribly wrong way, in my opinion. Now, let's move on to the next thing. So, Seth Rollins goes on Corey Graves' podcast on one episode and said this after when the Wyatt stuff happened, because at the time Seth Rollins' reputation with fans were basically dead in the toilet, and fans had finally kind of got enough of him. But yeah, he would make some comments. Kenny Omega saying this: Kenny Omega has improved himself in WWE. WWE is the top of the mountain, and I'm the guy at the top of the mountain. Okay, so here's the thing. Not everyone in WWE, not everyone wants to go to WWE. Like, Kenny Omega, I know people might not remember this, but Kenny Omega was a WWE guy once upon a time. He was a part of a developmental deal with Deep South Wrestling, I believe, and he did not, and he was let go, thinking he was never going to, thinking fans would WWE say, oh, he's never going to announce anything, he's nobody to us. Then he proves them all wrong, and you want to know how I know that he got in their heads? Because after Kenny Omega defeated Okada at Dominion, WWE was like, okay, we are not claiming that he's in our head and we want him, but he's definitely in our head and we want him, because we're going to publish some rare footage of him during his developmental days, so we can get some of that sweet, get some scrap heap of popularity and momentum and heat talk he's having. So, yeah, Kenny Omega kind of already proved himself to WWE that I'm the best freaking wrestler in the world right now, and he's not even working for them. And they offered him a ton of crap. Like, they said, okay, Kenny, what do you want? We'll give you a 6 month we'll give you a 6 month opt-out deal. We'll let you wrestle AJ Styles. We'll let you main event WrestleMania if you so wish it. We'll give you anything you want. Just say what you want. And Kenny Omega reportedly said this in an interview, all he wanted was creative freedom of his character. Not creative control, like booking everything, creative freedom to express his character. And that was the thing that made Vince say, you're asking too much now, man. And long and behold, that doesn't work. So, yeah. Kenny Omega proving himself into WWE, I know the whole, you have to call WWE if you want a deal, but if WWE's calling you to get a deal, that means you proved yourself to something. Other than the whole traditional WWE just wants to keep you away from other places, which they have a tendency to do. But yeah, that was a huge disagreement with fans having, and I'll get to Seth Rollins' comment about something later. But Seth Rollins really started playing this weird delusional status of his life. Like, I couldn't tell, like, so you have got to be this tone deaf. You can't be this stupid. You can't be this tone deaf. Where he says this about after Hell in a Cell, you could go back 6 months, a year, I was everybody's favorite. I don't know what changed, except that I became the person they wanted me to be. It's a very fickle audience. Then he wrote this: if people don't get what they want, they whine about it on Twitter. It's 2019, I don't know what wrestling looks like anymore, it's a weird place. So, yeah, that pissed a lot of people off for understandable reasons. This is what I wrote that sums it up entirely. I get it. We can be very fickle on many occasions, but Colby, you really don't seem to get this. Prior to Extreme Rules, you were still loved by the fans, but then you decided to attack your so-called brother-in-arms, dismiss any legitimate criticism with booking, and Ospreay's money wealth. And this is seriously the prime example of tone deaf. So, yeah, Seth Rollins was clearly kissing Vince's ass, and so yeah, I was pissed at that, because I was thinking to myself, dude, Seth, just admit, maybe, just maybe, that Vince might have done wrong. Just admit it. It's alright to admit when your boss is being an idiot. But he didn't, and instead he made it worse for himself when he goes ahead and tries to defend the Hell in a Cell match. This is what he wrote. Correction. It ended in a referee stoppage. When a body isn't moving, the official has to make the right call. Okay, fine. If you want to defend that crappy ending, because it's a Hell in a Cell match, that means there should be no stopping. And Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt was clearly moving. But let's ignore that logic. So a fan named Cody, not Cody Rhodes, some other wrestling fan named Cody, just posted an image, a GIF of Undertaker choke slamming Mick Foley through the cell, him crash landing onto the surface of the ring. This is what Seth Rollins said, and this was the stupidest tweet I ever seen at this point. I imagine Mick and Taker might have liked the ref to stop the match there. Might have added a few more years to Mick's incredible career. Just a thought. Here's my response. Permission to speak insultingly for the record, sure. Logic. Permission granted and then some. And then I just wrote this. You're being a fucking a-hole, Colby. Because here's the big problem here. You are essentially trying to say that you knew what Taker and Foley were thinking of in '98 than what they would probably be thinking in 2019. Even though there is clear evidence on multiple occasions that Taker and Foley at that time didn't want to stop the damn match. There's even an audible notice in the match that Taker says, don't stop the match. Don't stop the match. Because they knew they were working something here. They didn't want to stop the match. And if this was done today, then yeah, they definitely should have stopped the match. And should they have stopped the match? Maybe. Especially after the second fall happened. Maybe they could have stopped the match. But 98 was different compared to 2019 and 2020. But, you know, we can't acknowledge that mental mindset, what was back then, compared to now. Like, you had to factor in that WCW was kicking WWE's ass in the ratings, and they needed to find every edge they could, so they let the wrestlers run wild on several occasions. But after that show, but Mick Foley expressed in his documentary that after that match, that Vince credited Mick Foley for a lot of the great things he's done, but said, I am going to put a governor on you. I'm going to stop you from ever risking your health like that ever again. So to hear that Seth Rollins, like, I believe Foley and rarely on occasions Taker acknowledged that now they probably regret what they did in Hell in a Cell in '98. They still feel proud of what they did, but yeah, it probably was crazy that day. But to say that I know more that they knew in '98 than they probably know now? Seth, that is not how this works. You cannot get into their minds in the past unless you were temporarily there and had the ability to be Charles Xavier and read people's minds. But if you hear Mick Foley and Taker saying, don't stop the match, we have something going here, they're not going to stop the match back then. WWE let them do whatever they damn well please up until that point, and then they had to really put some restrictions on Foley from ever doing something that insane ever again. And even then, they were like, 2 months later, let's book Hell in a Cell again on Raw with Mick Foley and Kane. And then have Undertaker throw him into the table again. So yeah, clearly that restriction was barely there. And then when the memory losses happened, then they were like, yeah, you have to stop. But then they still said, okay, we'll let you stay around a little bit longer, and then come back every couple of years and get your ass kicked. So, yeah, Mick Foley has expressed regret on certain stuff he did. Like, he always would say, what the hell did I do to myself? Like, he said how he would go down a flight of stairs and say, man, what the hell did I do to myself? But Foley did it because he loved wrestling, and while he does probably regret certain things, and this is me saying probably, he clearly at the time didn't regret it. So why would you say that they would say it back then? If they said it now, that's a one thing. But '98, that was a different mental state for them. They were in a different mental place with wrestling and how they wanted to go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and crazier and crazier and crazier. But, you know, we gotta ignore any semblance of logic with that. So, yeah, that was the stupid take he made. And then around this time, Seth Rollins would turn heel and everything. But before this, he would write, he would say, he would make a tweet saying this, he would. Okay, so normally the thing to do at a time like this is either go dark on social media when you know you've made a huge mistake, you've pissed everyone off, everyone's pissed at you. You should probably go dark for a while and just take a break from social media and rest your mind there. Nope. Nope. He chose not to do that. Um, so explained on Donating Backstage, he got tired of fans and others doubting him, deciding to push back. It affects you whether you want to fess to it or not. You read the comments, you hear the small segment of the audience. This is not everyone. I do live events all over the world and I'm not getting booed. There is a small contingent of our audience that's very vocal on social media. I'm a passionate guy. I love this business. This is my life. When I put so much into it, to feel like I get disrespected, I'm not going to push back. I'm not like Cena and is just going to put motivational quotes on Twitter. I'm not like Roman and just hang back. To each their own. To me, I'm passionate. I love this business and love what they do every single day. If someone wants to take a shot at me, I'm not going to be afraid to push back. The cool thing to do is to hate the guy that's on the top. I'm not the first. Roman before me, he had that problem as well. Cena had it was the same thing. He might have pioneered the whole thing. Bret Hart, same sort of thing. 1. Seth Rollins doesn't seem to get this. If you're having... So, you have generalized every fan saying that we all hate you, even though there are still fans of you. There are still people who are fans of you. And you're generalizing every fan to be very fickle creatures and whatnot. And I do certainly get on several aspects that there are those kind of fans. But the way you're saying is like everyone's on it. And here's the thing. If Seth Rollins was just a straight up guy who was just posting hot takes on social media and to draw a reaction from people, fine, what the fuck ever. But this is the problem I have that really sums up why I have such an issue with this. Seth Rollins is trying to be a representative, an ambassador for the company. He's trying to represent. I totally respect that. He can represent all he wants. The problem I have is the attacking of the fans who have done nothing but be respectful towards you, have offered their viewpoints, have offered their criticisms, only to be told, fuck you. He has told them basically, fuck off. I'm not hearing your opinion. You're just a jealous hater, or you just are very fickle people. When there's a small segment of fans that you've acknowledged, a small segment that act like that. But you're saying that, but when you say it's a small segment, you're kind of hinting that it's kind of the whole audience. And here's the thing. Roman at once upon a time did act like Seth Rollins. He did act like Seth Rollins. I'll admit that. He had 2 interviews saying, I'm just a guy getting rich. And the other one is, when I'm talking, shut the hell up. Now, here's the difference between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns was getting this big push. One of the few rare young breed talents that were getting the big push. So naturally, you would probably go to his head. The other thing is, now I know this might be shocking, but Roman would later apologize for his behavior and say he wished he did things differently. Seth Rollins, however, doesn't. Seth Rollins has been in the business a lot longer than Roman, yet he has not yet come to that same conclusion. And that's the problem. And the last thing you would want to do is just turn out like that. And then he goes ahead on another interview where he basically tries to say this. Kenny and I worked together in Ring of Honor 9-10 years ago. We had a great repertoire and some great matches. I actually consider him pretty good friends. So we're buds and no ill will towards Kenny. I see his stuff and he's an incredible performer. But again, if I just sit there and say, oh, Kenny Omega, what a talent. I would love to wrestle him one day. Bah, that doesn't make a headline. That's boring. And then JR's got nothing to talk about. Kenny's great, but Kenny's never proven himself in WWE, so that's what I was saying. WWE's the top of the mountain, and I'm the guy sitting at the top of the mountain. So if Kenny wants to come and play in the major leagues, then that's fine. The bottom line is, I want Kenny to come to me because I'm not going to him anytime soon. And first of all, when he talks about Will Ospreay's and the Twitter feud they had, first of all, tons of respect towards him. He loves the industry and he's really talented. One day I think he and I could have an incredible match if the stars align. To me, a big part of being the best is being able to draw money, and that's what our industry is at the end of the day. People don't like that for some reason, especially when it came from my mouth. Because a segment of your cash is blood money. At the end of the day, I have nothing but respect for Ross. It's cool that he stepped up and we got into a little bit of a spat. To steal a line from Bischoff, controversy creates cash, and we're all just buddies, and that's lame, man. So Seth Rollins basically admitted in this article that everything that the whole asshole attitude he was displaying to people, the Colby Lopez attitude he was displaying, that was just to draw a headline. He admitted he could have been respectful, but that's not making headlines. So I'm going to quote do the mass media bullshit, where I'm going to go ahead and make a huge headline of a simple little incident that happens and make everyone talk about it, try and draw ad revenue in, because I'm a greedy son of a bitch. That was honestly the most heinous thing I could hear, because I was like, oh, god damn it, Seth. You're going to fake all your you're going to act like you're trying to be like a major mass media outlet trying to draw in headlines, even though that has royally sunk your reputation with fans. And then he goes on to further piss everyone off, because now the character has been bled so much that it's hard to tell where does the character stop and start now with the Messiah gimmick he's doing, where Seth Rollins and Colby Lopez, you now can't tell, is this Seth Rollins talking or is this Colby Lopez talking? Because he would go on Raw after Seth Rollins won at after Drew McIntyre won at the event of Royal Rumble. He says this: Drew McIntyre, enjoy while it lasts, because they will stab you in the back so fast. And when I heard that, I just had to say something. This is what I said. Sure, Colby, continue the victim card like you didn't do anything wrong in your perceptive downfall with fans. And that's exactly what I said. Like, and even Drew McIntyre kind of gave a subtle jab at this, I think, where he says in an interview after when his main event push was starting again, that he said this. And this is the headline: Drew McIntyre, I don't care how the fans respond to me as long as they have fun while I'm out there. So things are coming together. The final piece is like something was missing since I came back to Raw. It was there when I was gone from the company. It was there when in NXT. I wasn't quite there since I came back. And I just wasn't 100% myself. You know, I was always very serious all the time, and I always say that it's very hard for the fans to relate to a 6.5 hairy, gigantic Scotsman who's scrolling all the time, and now I've had a microphone time and just loosened up and having fun. And I'm not necessarily a good or bad guy, I'm just being neat. I'm having fun, and if I'm having fun, generally they're having fun. I don't care how they respond as long as they have a good time when I'm out there, and I'm still going to kick butt. Translation: I'm Drew McIntyre. I will conduct myself as a fucking adult, whereas I, Seth Rollins, will conduct as a sad little child. Like, he's trying... I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to be a representative. He's trying to represent the company, and that is 100% okay. But he is doing it to such a dangerous extent where he has basically waved that flag so proudly. Like, even the top guys, and maybe barely Hogan... they have always expressed that, yeah, I'm the representative face, I represent the company, but will hear you out. Let me hear your side of the story, why you think this, and let's see if I agree or not. And if I don't agree, that's fine. At the end of the day, it's your opinion, I respect it. Like Stone Cold has done it, CM Punk has done it, and here's the thing with CM Punk. The CM Punk thing is that he has publicly admitted he can be an asshole. He's at least honest when he's being an asshole to himself. Like he'll admit to everyone, like, I'm an asshole at times. That's just who I am. And then when I was talking to some people about this and they were defending Seth Rollins, and I told them that's perfectly all right, they just go ahead out of nowhere and bring up the whole well, if AEW did it, that would be you would be perfectly fine with that. And I was like, the AEW excuse, the whole, if it happened to that place, you would be 100% correct. And any and all legitimate problems you have with Seth Rollins is immediately negated. So, yeah, here's what I'm going to just say. Chris Jericho has done this whole demo god thing he's doing, and I was doing the whole demo thing as a way to justify the when they don't have a higher viewership rating than say NXT when they get their asses kicked, which only happened a few times. But here's the thing: I have not. The demo talk wasn't even being that established until Jericho brought it up, and then everyone wouldn't shut up about it. But the problem I had with that was that Jericho, I get you're a heel. I get you're probably being a character, but that is seriously not helping this already toxic Wednesday Night War fan base when we all should be united and celebrating that NXT and AEW are putting out kick-ass content and more viewers should be coming in, but to create a continuous divide is not helping anyone. But, and then they make these weird merchandises about Chris Jericho's demo god thing, and I was thinking to myself, so was this a work? Was this a plan? Was this Jericho trying to be an asshole on purpose to make merchandise sales, to put a brand out there? Because this is the most confusing work I've ever seen. Like, I was legitimately confused over, was this supposed to be some elaborate conspiracy work and whatnot. I'm still to this day confused. But yeah, and people like to bring up how MJF is acting like an asshole all the time, except that's his character. And it's been well established by fans and by journalists and by virtually everyone else that MJF is living the character. He's living the character, but he hasn't like taken it too far, like act like an asshole to his loved ones. If he did that, then that would be pushing it. But he's just living day to day with that character, trying to be that character, or thinking that's going to work. And while it has reeled some great successes, I get why it's a very gray area on that, because there's a chance if he takes it too far with it, like say, like you know, being an asshole to people he cares about, being an asshole to loved ones, that's not with the cameras rolling or anything to get that attention, then okay, fine, then MJF is in the wrong. But I've acknowledged that Chris Jericho, I have expressed my disappointment with Chris Jericho and how he's conducting himself on certain occasions while in AEW. So it's not the whole AEW does it, so if they do it, you're perfectly fine with it. And I was like, so that dismisses any and all legitimate problems that you have with other people. So the logic is, if Seth Rollins is being an asshole to everyone else and he was in AEW, you would have been saying, that's AEW, that's cool. Yeah, no. I would not be saying that's cool. In fact, I would generally I would be saying the same thing about Seth Rollins if he was doing it in AEW. I'd be saying the same thing. I'd probably be doing the same video here, except I wouldn't be talking about WWE and all of its unethical practices. So, yeah, I don't care. If they have an asshole in AEW being an asshole to fans and dismissing any criticisms, I will talk about that. I will rant on social media and say that was stupid, man. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're not really helping your case here, man. Especially for the upstart company. That actually makes it worse. Like, and WWE, like, they keep making these horrible, unethical practices, and I'm just left, what the hell, man? And let's see, what was the final one? Yeah. So, yeah. Let me just end this off by saying, yes, Seth Rollins, Colby Lopez, he's kind of at this point. Oh, the eye for an eye match. I haven't watched the match, so I can't give an opinion on the match itself. But the biggest thing I saw was the eye and how that was so faked and not even trying to be real or legitimately authentic. So, fans didn't like it. They really hated that. And thinking that was stupid and too gimmicky. And Seth Rollins' response was this, instead of actually saying, okay, I can, this is why I like the match, but if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine. He get inducted in himself as a proper adult. Yeah, that's a huge lie. He said this, if this was the Attitude Era and we did something like this, you would all love it. I have come out and said that although the Attitude Era had a huge amount of impact and had a lot of good positives, like the wrestlers having creative freedom and creative expression and able to offer input to the creative teams, it wasn't perfect. Fans even acknowledge nowadays that the Attitude Era, while it was better than the PG era, it wasn't perfect. The fans hated the hand thing of Mae Young, the giving birth to an hand segment. That was stupid. Fans hated Mideon running around all naked and everything with grease all over himself. That was stupid. Especially when you remember Mideon was the possessed cult guy under the control of the Undertaker. So, yeah, the Attitude Era excuse say, if this happened in the Attitude Era, you would have all loved it. Even though there have been legitimate criticisms given to the Attitude Era, but I'm not going to conduct that because that would mean I'm wrong or something. That comment really made me mad because because here's the thing, I had that mentality when I was, a fucking kid, when I watched wrestling back then, and when I watched old footage of the old days. I would say that. Except here's the thing. You want to know the difference? I was a fucking kid. Seth Rollins is a fully grown adult. And saying the typical kid response or the edgy response of saying it's the Attitude Era, it's the perfect era of wrestling, even though it has its huge flaws, but we're not going to acknowledge that stuff. That's a childish idea. That's just stupid to acknowledge that the Attitude Era was having its flaws. It's not the perfect era like everyone remembers it being. What the hell happened, Colby? What the hell happened, Rollins? I get it. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to be a representative of the freaking company, and you have every right to do it. It's done a lot for you. It's given you a lot of stuff. It's helped you. It made you meet the love of your life. Much like John Moxley has acknowledged how in his podcast that while he's grateful for some opportunity he was given in WWE, and while he has complaints, he keeps saying the biggest thing that ever happened to him, the best thing that ever happened to him, was meeting Renee Young. So yeah. The WWE's did a lot for you in the personal aspect and has provided you with a lot of outlets and given your talent to expose to the entire world more so than Ring of Honor does. But the way you've conducted this, in my opinion, I feel it's wrong. I feel that you should be, while you are a representative of the company, you also need to be a representative of the people and try and see their arguments and see their debates. If you just use ad hominem attacks to justify that WWE is the perfect company, that nothing is entirely wrong with it, then you're just more of a suck-up than an actual representative. Because normally a representative, in my opinion, is the person that represents the interests of the company, but also has to serve as an ambassador of sorts to listen to the people's perspective, get their side of the story. Like, if they say this, then you have to at least listen to them, hear them out, instead of dismissing everything they say and say they're just a bunch of haters, they're a bunch of trolls, that they're all jealous of me, a person who has such exquisite talents of the world, that I am the perfect being. And there were some times I wanted to just say on Twitter, Seth, how the fuck did you make it up to this point in your career with your wrists nailed to the fucking cross? Because at this point you're playing this self-martyr, like you're trying to be this sacrificial lamb for Vince, like you are dying for Vince's crimes. And it's like, if he had tried to justify the virus protocols they did, that would be freaking it for everyone. Everyone acknowledged that WWE conducted themselves poorly with the virus and then finally did something when everything went to hell. But if someone outright defended that would have set everyone off. Everyone would be pissed at Seth for saying that, because that's when you know you've kissed up Vince so much that you've been brainwashed by Vince's ideology that he is incapable of failing. If Seth really went out of his way and said on Twitter, on any form of media or article that essentially that, oh, Dundee was right to just not do comprehensive checkups. They just said do fire temperature checks. That's it. No comprehensive testing. No. Seth Rollins knows best, right? Vince knows best, right? Even though 2 people got infected, then after the second one, they finally decided to do something, and then when that happened, they weren't even trying as much as they could, and then when they finally went out to over 30 people gained the virus, yeah, that should have been the sign that, I'm the representative of your company, but maybe I should start agreeing with these people saying that that was a bad idea. Just food for thought. But, yeah, and I keep saying, how the hell has Vince not been tried for his negligence? I'm surprised he hasn't been arrested for this, especially since it's happening in Florida. And the less I talk about what's going on in Florida, because, my God, I was born there. I didn't live there for an extended period. I was only there for 1 year. But that was decades. That was 2.5 decades ago. And I'm kind of glad I got out of there because, my God, look at how Florida's become. God. But, yeah. Seth, Colby, I'm really am hoping that you eventually do find this self-reflection and realize, man, I'm kind of being an a-hole on everything on this. Like, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to be a representative, but yet at the same time, you have to listen to the critics, you have to listen to the fans, and try to hear them out. You can't just dismiss everything and saying they're all just a bunch of haters and whatnot. Like, I want to like you. I want to watch you on TV. I want to see the character of Seth Rollins expand and become champion again. But if you're trying to do this as a face, if you try to become a face in the future, that with all the baggage you've added to yourself, it kind of brings out this whole, should I really be liking you as a face? Like, I don't know if I could. So, and like I said, the only thing I'm hoping that Seth Rollins does is simply apologize. He can take back all the horrible hot takes he made by simply saying, I'm sorry. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for him to pay compensation because that's just stupid. I just want a simple, I am sorry. Preferably in that order. Or you can talk like Yoda and say, sorry, I am. So, yeah. That was my huge video talk on everything Seth Rollins has done for the past year. If he does more hot takes on this, I'm just going to say I'll talk about it on Twitter and 280 characters and tag my buddies to get their thoughts on this. But this is it. This is hopefully the last time I talk about Seth Rollins and all the crazy comments he made. Oh, last thing. The perception of long-form storytelling. There was a huge amount of stuff I could have talked about, like how even TV shows screwed that up, but I don't feel like talking about that because then it would be getting off topic a little bit on that. But, yeah. So this was my whatever talk on Seth Rollins. You can go call it a TED Talk if you want. The Self-Decimation of Seth Rollins, as I like to also call it. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and if you want, donate on my Patreon. And stay tuned for more, and I'll see you all next time.